Welcome to Matchday 16 of Championship Predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage. With me, as always, is Daniel Cody and Charlie Betts. Let's go with a recap of Matchday 15, where it was much better for Charlie Betts. It was much better for me. It was okay for Daniel Cody. Perfect scores are around. Charlie got a perfect score for Derby versus Coventry. Daniel Cody got a perfect score for Sheffield Wednesday versus Reading. I got 3 perfect scores with Derby versus Coventry, QPR versus Bristol City, and Blackburn versus Millwall. So the points total overall was 11 points for myself, 9 points for Charlie, and just a 6 for Cody. So overall, I lead as extended. It's 105 in the tons. I've got my cricket bat and my hat and all that stuff up. With 18 perfect scores. Daniel Cody's on 96. He's 4 away from the ton with 12 perfect scores. And Charlie on 87 with 12 perfect scores as well. Let's move on to Friday evening football. Not Friday night, but Friday evening of Barnsley versus Bournemouth. Barnsley picked up a late win against Birmingham. Bournemouth lost at home to Preston, Codes.
It's a great start, isn't it? I don't know what to say about that game. Preston were in disarray and then they bounced back to become the best away side in the world again. Bournemouth on the roads, not quite as good. Of their last 3, they've only beaten Birmingham. Only 1 point from Rotherham and Sheffield Wednesday away as well. So I don't know what to say about them because they started to shore up defensively and that's 5 goals in 2 games conceded. So I'm a bit concerned. Barnsley at home, bar the Brentford game, basically been flawless since Ishmael joined and took charge. He's been absolutely brilliant. And again, they're picking up a lot of results. And before he went, obviously I had Barnsley to be right in the relegation mire, but I'm so sure they'll be safe now with him at the helm. As a result, I'm going for Barnsley to win this one. And I know Bournemouth will probably bounce back. They've only lost 2 games all season. But for me, on form, it's Barnsley's win. So I'm going to go for same score, 2-1.
I'm going to have to agree with the scoreline, but in opposite direction, to be honest. The Bournemouth one was a culture shock, really, because they were terrible for the first 75 minutes and then were absolutely superb. So close to getting an equaliser as well. Barnsley got that vital late winner against Birmingham, but I think Bournemouth will bounce back in this one. 2-1. Charlie?
It is tough. I think I'm probably going to go down the middle, and that's not just for the sake of a point, but genuinely because, Barnsley at home, like you say, have been incredible. I can't see Bournemouth losing 2 on the bounce. They've been pretty, fairly predictable up to this point. I'm going to write that off as a bad week, but then Barnsley at home are very good. Do I bottle it? No, I'm going to bottle it. In fact, I'm going to go for Bournemouth to keep a clean sheet. 1-0 Bournemouth.
Up next is the 12:30 kickoff. The 2 teams are constantly on Sky Sports at the moment. It's Reading versus Nottingham Forest at the JC Stadium. Charlie, Reading, they got the point against Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday down to 10 men. How frustrated do you think Reading would be that they couldn't capitalise on the extra man? Yeah,
I think obviously, I think if this had been before the international break, going back a few weeks, they probably would have run riot after that. But something's changed. I wouldn't say they're necessarily back to where they were. They're obviously making progress compared to a couple of weeks ago. Is it enough? I mean, Sheffield Wednesday were down to 10 men. I know it's a Tony Pulis side, but you'd expect to be winning that. Yeah, they'd be grossly frustrated by that. In terms of a score then, I don't know. I still think this is a tough one. Forest away from home aren't great, but they can't keep being this bad. And I mean that in the politest way possible, but they have been, they might have played well, but the results certainly haven't gone in their favour. I think I have to go for a Reading win just on the fact that they're probably the lesser of 2 evils, for want of a better phrase. They're one of the better of the 2 teams who aren't necessarily playing as great as they could do. So I'm going to have to go for a Reading win. I don't know. We keep saying this every week, but I don't know where Forest are going to get their goals from. I genuinely can't see who the goals are coming from. Maybe they'll get another late one as well. So I think I'm going to go for a 2-0 Reading win.
Coach?
I've got to have a little bit of a view on Forest here because I've said it's going to click at some point and they're creating chances. They're playing well. They actually broke a record in midweek, Craig. I don't know if you know this. This season, they had the most shots on goal without hitting the target. 13 shots, none on target against Watford. So I'm going to bottle it and not predict them to have the goal glut this weekend. And if it happens this week, I'm going to be absolutely furious. But I can't keep throwing away 3 points at the start of the game. So I'm going to go for Reading to nick it. They have been better. They're 3 unbeaten now. They let in a goal every game, but Forest haven't scored in 4. So a boring game, Reading to nick it 1-0. Don't know why it's on Sky.
Yep, I think we're all in agreement and Reading are going to win. I don't know. There's 2 theories for this one. 2 theories. It's 2 theories. It could be a late winner for Reading, a tight one, or if they score early, this could be this could go right. This could be a riot, in my opinion. But I'm not going to go for the riot. I'm going to go for the tight 2-1 win for Reading. Up next at the Brentford Community Stadium, it's Brentford versus Blackburn. Co to tell the championship two top goal scorers.
Yeah, and two of the informed sides, I'd say, across the board. I've said this about Blackburn for a couple of weeks now. They've got goals everywhere. They've finally found consistency. They've only let in 4 goals in the last 6 games, which is the area that was harming them earlier in the season. I'm starting to think they're a dark horse. They brought back the likes of Stuart Downing a few weeks back to the club. They put that little bit of experience in the squad to go with the quality they've already got. And you can shake your head, Craig. I get that. He's past his prime. But to have that sort of depth in the squad, when, as you've seen with like a Norwich this week, there can be 10 players out at a time, depending on COVID protocols and all of that. It is good to have those squad players in there. So for me, Blackburn look brilliant. Brentford look really solid. They're scoring goals, again, relying on Tony most of the time, but they're not conceding either. So it's whether the attacks pay off the best or the defences cancel each other out. I'm going to go for the attacks because I'm optimistic and I've already gone for a boring game. So this one is going to be 2-2.
Okay, Charlie.
Annoyingly, he's nicked my score, so I'll put a different spin on it.
No. You can have the same score. It worked last week, Charlie. It worked.
The thing that's laying in the back of my mind is the fact that Brentford are unbeaten in the last 4 at home. But like you say, Blackburn have been a bit better at the back, and I've not backed Blackburn once in the last 4 or 5 games, and they've done me every single time. Maybe defences will come out on top. I'm going to go down the middle, but this time the champions' favourite scoreline 1-1.
I'm going to be honest. This is probably the hardest game to pick this weekend, and I have gone to Brentford to sneak a 2-1 win. I think this could be a really good game. If you literally go either way. I don't think it'd be a draw. It'd be either or. But I'm going to stick with Brentford just to be a bit more clinical than Blackburn. Up next at Ashton Gate, it's Bristol City versus Birmingham. Birmingham on that slide, Charlie. Can't buy a win.
No, they've got a couple. They've got a goal, which is progress for them, to be honest. Although still not exactly where you want to be. I don't know, Aitor Karanka. I don't know what's happening really. It's not the Aitor Karanka we know of old. Yeah, if I'm a Birmingham fan, I think they'll be okay this year, but it's far too close for comfort. And I thought they'd have learned some lessons from last year. And it doesn't feel like they have really. That the way they finished, sort of obviously post lockdown, at the end of last season, sort of carried that vein of form on really, which is not ideal. So there's no bankers in the Championship, and every time I've said a banker, it's not gone that way. But I would think this is a favourable home win for Bristol City. I think good result against QPR, who are a fairly strong side at home. So although that ruined my prediction, they are a very good team, and to beat QPR as well. So I have to go for a Bristol City win. It's by how many? I don't know. See, Birmingham surprisingly are leaking goals a little bit. I'm going to go for a repeat of the other night, 2-1 Bristol City.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think Bristol are a much better side than Birmingham. The Championship, David doesn't lie. I can't actually got not much to say about Bristol City because obviously they beat QPR. They were a bit under the cosh, to be honest. QPR didn't really take their chances, but they ground out a 2-1 win. Birmingham, I think they'd be really annoyed that they didn't hold on. Bristol City are going to win 2-0. Coast.
I've gone for one less, but we're all in agreement on the outcome. If you take out that Reading game in isolation, Bristol City have been in good form. Birmingham, I mean, at Luton, I don't know how they got a point. They've lost 3 of their other last 6, and their other points were a 0-0 against Coventry and Millwall. So I don't see them scoring, despite the one at home to Barnsley. So I'm going to go for 1-0 to Bristol City, because I think they'll be quite solid at the back still.
Speaking of Birmingham, Coventry City are playing at home at St Andrews. They're playing Rotherham United. Coventry, unbeaten 4 now, Coach.
Yeah, they're doing all right, and they've sorted out the solidity at the back. The goals are still the hardest thing to come by, which is what we've said from the start of the season. They've only got a month until they can invest in someone, potentially get a loan deal in or something like that. Rotherham, much the opposite. They've started shipping goals now after starting pretty decently. They've been pretty poor on the road, though, having said that all season. It's a really crucial game. I think it could be, even this early in the season, quite important into which one of the two potentially stays up. So for me, I think Coventry are slightly more solid and Rotherham struggle on the road. So I'm going to go for what Coventry did in their last home game against Cardiff, a 1-0 win.
Charlie.
Yeah, no, I'm in complete agreement. I think, Rotherham, I don't think they've won in the last 4 or 5 away from home and have been fairly beaten in all of them. Coventry have been a bit more solid at home. They win, draw, win, that kind of form. You do worry where the goals are going to come from, and it really annoys me because it means I can probably only go for a 1-0 win because I just can't see them. The only thing I'm going to gamble, I'm going to say this often, and it doesn't happen, is potentially I'm going to go for a 2-0 Coventry win on the hope that Rotherham push forward in the last 10 minutes. As I've said all the time, it never actually happens, and Coventry sneak one on a counter-attack or something like that. But it would be a set piece or something. So It's unlikely, but I think Coventry might get 2, so 2-0 Coventry City.
It's never happened.
No, I know.
This is a hard one. I'm not going to go for a Coventry win. Credit where credit's due to Coventry. Last 2 games, they've come from behind to get a late equaliser. And I feel like this time it's going to bite them on the backside. So I'm also going to go for the Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1. Up next, it's Huddersfield versus Queen's Park Rangers. Huddersfield didn't play well against Cardiff, not going to lie, they were terrible. QPR, I said to you earlier, Charlie, that they didn't take their chances. They're going to be kicking themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and especially at home. I think they're definitely a much better team at home, which you haven't been able to say for the last year before that. So it's quite good that they maybe saw out that home form. The worry is that their away form isn't, particularly good. But like you say, to be at home and still sort of lose in the manner that they did would be disappointing for them. I don't know. This is a bit of a tough one because Huddersfield are so erratic. They've been. And I know we shouldn't say that. It seems like we say that about every team across this season, but it's true in terms of their recent form anyway. So I genuinely don't know. QPR not great away from home. Huddersfield not great at home. What do I do? This is a genuine, close your eyes and throw a dart at it. So do I just bottle and go for the Championship's favourite scoreline? Yeah, I'm going to do it 1-1.
Right.
I had similar difficulties, but I've gone for the sort of combination of Huddersfield unbeaten in their last 2 home games, a win against Middlesbrough, which was brilliant, to be fair, and a good point against Luton. Last 2 away games for QPR, they've lost 2-1 and 3-1, albeit against 2 of the form sides in the Championship. It could be 6-3 either way in theory, couldn't it? But I'm not going to go for that. I think it will be an exciting game because both teams have got plenty of errors in them at the back, particularly QPR on the road and Huddersfield in the last game. So I'm going for Huddersfield to win a thriller by, let's go big, 4-3. It's the game of the weekend.
Well, one of us is going to get a point. This is one I literally just threw a dart at it as well, to be honest, Charlie. It's not as hard to predict as Brentford versus Blackburn, but it could literally go either. It could be the spectacular or the ridiculous or the boring 0-0 draw. I don't know, but I'm going for the ridiculous this time. I'm going to go for QPR to win 3-1. Don't know why, I just did. Up next at the New Den, it's Millwall versus Derby. Deja vu for Wayne Rooney coach.
Yeah, and I mean, in the last one, you said the ridiculous or the boring. I've got a feeling this might edge towards the boring, to be honest. Derby, they can't hold on to a lead. They are improving. They're creating more chances. They're a bit more direct in the way that they're passing. They're not just keeping the ball for the sake of it. But they're still susceptible at the back. They're still not scoring many goals. Millwall, I guess the Warriors, they looked a bit worse at the back. But again, against one of the most prolific teams in the division, I really can't see anything other than a draw. I really can't. And I'm going between 0-0 and 1-1. I know the Championship's favourite scoreline's 1-1, but I think this will be an awful game. I really do. I'm going for a blank 0-0.
I think there's going to be goals in this game. I really do. I think
Millwall Derby.
Yeah, Millwall Derby. No, I'm going. Yeah. Hear me out. I feel that what Cardiff did to Luton, where nothing special, got set pieces. I feel that's what Millwall are going to do against Derby. I think it can cause real problems to this Derby backline. And that's where I feel that it's going to be very dangerous. So I'm going to go for Millwall to win 3-1. Charlie?
I can't see Derby getting a goal against this Millwall side. I just can't see it. I think Millwall will win. I think it's going to be the scrappiest of 1-0s. It's going to be bouncing down from a corner, hits off someone's knee, goalkeeper's elbow and goes in. One of those sorts of just let's rain the ball down on the goalkeeper and see what bounces out from there sort of thing, which I've been listening to interviews with a few managers recently and people say you want to play the right way, but actually if it's not effective, then why bother? And that's what I will respect Millwall for that. They stick the neck out and they do just play a way that's effective for them, and it works. So why not? So I'm going to have to go for Millwall 1-0 win. I think that the irony is that Derby would be a slightly more attacking threat if they had Rooney in the side, but for whatever reason, Rooney being in the side seems to make them the worst team at the back. So for me on that front, a scrappy 1-0 win for Millwall.
Up next at Carrow Road is the Championship leaders, Norwich against Sheffield Wednesday of Tony Pulis' side. Codes, Daniel Farke blamed everyone else but his own team.
He did. Let's be fair. I want to say something here. I didn't agree with a lot of his comments after the Luton match, but with 13 senior players, to be top of the league and to only have faltered in the last 2 games is not bad going. To be fair, he's done a very good job there. I still think they're going to be right up there in the top 6, but it was a bad day at the office. It really was. I get why he's trying to protect his team. A lot of the top managers do it, but he's up against the Tony Pulis side. And if there's one man who's not going to get fooled by a mind game, it is Tony Pulis. And Do you know what? Sheffield Wednesday have been so much more solid the last 3 games, albeit with 10 men for the majority of it. I just hope they can keep 11 on the pitch, because if they do, I think if Norwich have still got the majority out, they'll nick it. I really do. I'm going to go for, I know I've gone for a lot of rubbish games today, but I'm going to go for a 1-0 Sheffield Wednesday win, unless Sheffield Wednesday get yet another red card.
I've gone for the same scoreline, but opposite way. Yeah, obviously Norwich, we spoke about the 13 players they had out missing. It's still a decent Norwich side they had out in Luton. Let's be honest. All right, a couple of players out in position, but it's not the point. If Pookie obviously comes back for this weekend, which I've heard it might happen, everyone's buzzing again. Obviously with fans back at Norwich as well, that brings another set. It proved last night, we'll get on to Luton in a bit, but it kind of proved in a way having fans back does make a difference. Sheffield Wednesday will probably be the same as Luton, try to be a bit defensively, but Luton are better going forward than Sheffield Wednesday, let's be honest. Wednesday will be a bit more defensive. A ground out 1-0 win for Norwich will probably be their best result in weeks. So I'm going for 1-0 Norwich. Charlie?
It's tough because I do agree with you. I think there's almost been a bit of a blueprint sort of from last night with Luton of how to maybe play against the Sheffield Wednesday side, against the Norwich side. And then, Tony Pulis is not maybe silly enough to not disregard what happened last night. So will he approach that? But then you'd like to think Daniel Farke learned a lot from last night as well. So I might have to go down the middle with this. It's just whether there's goals or not. I do, it's hard for us to predict Sheffield Wednesday because we haven't actually seen a full strength Sheffield Wednesday with 11 men on the pitch or without a goalkeeper getting injured or something like that, in the 3 or 4 games that Pulis has been there. So they're a bit of an unknown entity to us. So on that basis, I'm going to bottle it and go down the middle. Is there going to be goals? I think there might be a glut of goals in this one. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Up next is Preston North End versus Wycombe. Codes.
Thanks. Always come to me first. It's a wonder that you're still top of the table with this sort of form, isn't it? I don't know, Craig. Preston are useless at home. But then they were brilliant in midweek.
I don't get it.
Charlie said it before. I don't get how a team can be so chalk and cheese. Wycombe, do you know what? They're still solid. They only lost by the odd goal to Stoke. It was a close game. Great to see fans back there as well, by the way. I don't know. Preston are at home, and they've only beaten Sheffield Wednesday with 10 men for most of the game. So I have to back them to not win. It's whether they're going to draw or lose. And they haven't drawn a game at home this season, I don't think, either. So I'm going to go for... I know I went for it in midweek and it cost me. I'm going to go for Wycombe to nick it. It's going to be another crap game, but it's going to be 2-0 to Wycombe this time because Preston are hopeless at home, bar one game.
Yeah, Preston was shocking at home. I was about to swear. Preston was shocking at home. Wycombe, obviously, they'll be a bit disappointed they didn't get anything out of Stoke. It was that sort of game that Wycombe probably enjoyed, to be honest, against Stoke. If Wycombe can bully Preston's back line, they've got a good chance, in my opinion. But I think a bit of naivety will let Preston score. Yeah, home form's rubbish. So I'm going to say Wycombe are going to win this one 2-1. Charlie?
I honestly don't know. This is so tough. I think there might be a bit of momentum for Preston. I know that they're appalling at home, but there has to be that hoodoo break eventually. Do you know what? I think Wycombe are going to get a bit overzealous because everyone's targeting Preston at home. And actually, they're going to get a little bit of a sting early on in the game. So I'm going to go for a draw. It's whether I go for the Championship's favourite scoreline or 0-0. For me, it's got 0-0 written over it. 0-0. No goals.
Up next, it's the Honest Football Podcast 2 favourite managers. It's Stoke City versus Middlesbrough. Charlie, which of your favourite managers are you going to go for?
Oh, it was Neil Warnock, his hands down, isn't he? But no, I don't know. This is tough because, to be honest, I said actually in the last episode that this wouldn't be a Michael O'Neill sort of game, and it turns out it was a scrappy 1-0 win, and it worked. Plan it executed perfectly for them. Borough obviously bounced back with great aplomb given what happened the week before. This is one of the toughest ones I think to predict because Stoke are better at home. Oh, I don't know. I really don't like doing this, but I don't know if I go for another draw. Right, okay. Do you know what? I think he's going to get a bit of momentum going after that win. I'm going to go for another 1-0 Stoke win. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think so.
I agree with the same scoreline, but not to the right team. I think this is the game where I think all three of us will go for 1-0. It's just deciding which one. Oh, he's not going for 1-0. Okay, well, we'll get to you in a minute. Yeah, I think it's probably the same game for Stoke against Wycombe that it will be for Middlesbrough, but Middlesbrough have a bit more quality. Obviously, brilliant result for Middlesbrough against Swansea. We know how good Swansea are. If Sombalonga could take his chances, like I said last week, happy days. Obviously, Middlesbrough don't because 1-0 Borough. Yeah, I'm going. Oh yeah, I like Neil Warnock over Michael O'Neill. 1-0 Warnock. Coach.
I had 2 scores in my head between this, and I'm juggling between them, and they're worlds apart, which makes it harder. But I had 0-0 in my head, and I also had a comfortable home win for Stoke, because Middlesbrough were not good away from home last weekend. And in fact, beyond being not good, they were pretty appalling. And Stoke at home, generally, bar the Norwich game, have been better. But more importantly, they've scored a lot of goals. So I'm going to go, and I know this is probably going to make me look ridiculous, I'm going to go for Stoke to win this comfortably. I'm going to go for 2-0.
Up next at Liberty Stadium, it's Swansea City versus Luton Town. A much better performance from the Hatters Coast.
Yeah, they were brilliant. They really were. For every bit that they were awful against Cardiff, they were good against Norwich. We've talked about Norwich's situation already, but as you said, the 11 on the pitch were good, and Luton, the game plan was perfect. They sat deep out of possession. There was so much space to counter into, and they countered at speed. It was fantastic. They used the width, the fullbacks overlapping. We were brilliant. But as good as we were at home with fans returning, which we always said would be the turning point, I didn't know that 1,000 would be enough. I was proven wrong.
Yeah, we both predicted Luton to lose.
Absolutely. But, that's a good sign for the future at home. But for this weekend, I think it's the last one where Luton have possibly got a chance on the road. Because once there are fans backing against them, Luton will be hopeless away. I can promise you that. So it's going to almost switch on its head. But for now, Swansea are a good home side. Luton are decent on the road. I know we edged it after lockdown last year, but I'm going to go for a draw this time. And this time, I think for the first time today, I'm going for the Championship's favourite scoreline.
It is the first time you've gone for the Championship favourite scoreline.
I'm not getting
Charlie.
any points here, am I?
Charlie.
This is why I mentioned to you it might have been about a week ago, but why Luton are starting to get on my annoying list of this Championship predictions, because every week...
How many teams is that now, Charlie?
Quite a few, but
Half the league, isn't it?
Well, before Saturday, I said I'll back Luton at home. I'll back Luton away. They're always great away. At home, different story. And then they get thumped away at Cardiff, and then get and then beat Norwich at home. So that throws the whole thing on its head. I just think there's so much momentum coming from that. I know there's not really fans, but there was a little bit of not a drought. That's too strong a word. But Luton were lacking goals in the games prior to the Norwich one. There's so much confidence. James Collins obviously hit a bit of form again. I think they'll sneak another one. Swansea haven't been convincing. I know they only lost 2-1 to Borough, but they just haven't really inspired me to sort of back them in games like this. And I just think there's a bit of momentum going there. And bar the Cardiff game, Luton have actually statistically were better away from home than they were at home. So I'm going to go with that. It's whether, I don't know, I think Luton will get a couple. It's whether they'll let one in at the other end. I'm going to go for a repeat of Swansea's scoreline in a negative way of 2-1 Luton Town.
Yeah, I'm going to have to... The first time I've actually copied someone's scoreline. It's the 11th game of this match day. Yeah, I'm going to have to go Luton, to be honest. The way Luton played on Wednesday was, as Cody said, was perfect. The pressing was great. I'm not sure about Luke Berry hugging the referee for a penalty. I'm not sure on that. I don't know why that happened. But overall, yeah, the defensive shape was great. George Moncur hitting form again. It was a wonderful strike. Set pieces are working well again. Matty Pearson, great header from him. Swansea, on the other hand, they lost to Middlesbrough, which I think they'll be really, really disappointed about. They didn't really play well. Middlesbrough were quite dominant at home. But as we said, Swansea are pretty decent at home. But I think Luton will win this one 2-1. And the final game is at Vicarage Road. It's Watford versus Cardiff. Coach, Cardiff, 2 wins in a row now, scoring goals for fun.
It looks like it's finally clicked. We all had them up there in that playoff picture. They started woefully, conceding silly goals as well, which is what they mentioned a lot of the time. But 2 clean sheets in a row, I think that's almost more important than the 7 that went in at the other end. Because as we mentioned, Luton were abject. Kiefer Moore's getting goals again, which is great to see. Watford, though, have become that sort of solid at the back, stout side again, haven't they? They've become that team that doesn't score many and doesn't concede many. It's a bit bizarre. I honestly found this the hardest of the weekend. It's the one I really struggled with, and that's not a good way to finish. I feel like, look, I don't know. I'm just going to pluck a score out the air. So 2-1 Watford, and no reason whatsoever, and sorry to Cardiff.
Charlie?
Yeah, I agree. I think Cardiff have hit a bit of form. They have been at home in those 2 games. Prior to those 2, I think away from home, they've lost, drawn, that kind of form. And all of Watford, they have been pretty much faultless at home. So I'm going to have to back Watford at home. I don't think they're going into it with great confidence. So it's not going to be a barnstorming 3-0 or something like that. Do I see Cardiff getting a goal? Not away from home, no. Watford 1-0.
This is another hard one to call, to be honest. Obviously, Watford at home are better. They do tend to score. Obviously, there's fans there at Vicarage Road, which probably will make a difference for them. Cardiff, on the other hand, yeah, away from home, they're poor. Lost to Coventry. They got the point against Millwall, which you probably could say is a positive. But the last 2 home games have been brilliant. Very solid, scoring goals with fun. I could see this one being a draw, and I'm going to end it on the Championship's favourite scoreline of 1-1. Let's have a quick recap of our predictions from Matchday 16. It's quite tight all round. Goals flying in for Cody at Huddersfield versus QPR with a 4-3 win. A lot of draws for Charlie, a few 1-1s and 2-2s. And for myself, I've only copied one person. Actually, not copied Daniel Cody for the first time since Matchday 5, probably. Yeah, I've copied Charlie with Swansea versus Luton. And those are our predictions for Matchday 16. Let us know in the comment section down below. If you agree with us, disagree with us, give us your predictions. We'd like to know. Give this video a like, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football 3. And we'll see you next time.